test your patients for toxins?
I do sometimes. I will start with the foundations first. And so I'm a big test, don't guess practitioner. But if somebody comes to me with a lot of symptoms and they're like, I'm eating McDonald's every day and I'm drinking out of my plastic water bottle and I sleep 4 hours a night. Well, then we work on that first before I go into testing, because testing, yes, it can tell us, more of a root cause. But if you've got all those things we need to fix first, then that's the base. We need to do that foundational groundwork. Mm-hmm. But then I usually will, if we're still having some issues, I do like to run certain tests. I love to do a dried hormone panel through Meridian Valley Labs. So that's a really good one, kind of looking at, are there hormones? Are there, especially their estrogen pathways? Are those blocked? Are they having issues with methylation? Are they having issues detoxing their estrogens? So we'll kind of dive in a little deeper with that.
I'd like to talk about that actually, because that dovetails so perfectly with environmental toxins, autoimmunity, and chronic diseases. Because if you have estrogen dominance, you're not detoxing properly. So can you talk about estrogen? Because men can have estrogen dominance too. If you're a man and you're listening, don't think that this only applies to the women and tune out, because that's, God, I can so remember when my daughter looked at my stepfather, and we were on vacation, we were on the beach, and she was 4. So she hadn't established that filter yet. And she looked and goes, "You have boobs. Do you know you have boobs?" And he was like, mortified. And I was like, oh my God. So, if you're a man and you are having difficulty losing weight, you can have estrogen dominance too. Yeah. So can you talk about the pathway that this happens? And because it so relates to autoimmunity and chronic diseases.
For sure. So estrogen goes down 2 different pathways. It's called phase 1 and phase 2. Estrogen, detox. And how we get estrogen out of our body is first we methylate it, which means we neutralize it. And then we detox it either through our pee, through our poop, making sure that our microbiome is where it needs to be. So phase 1, I always tell people, and I heard this analogy, I really love it, but I heard it from Dr. Carrie Jones. And she talks about how it's a bathtub. And so your estrogens are always flowing. Your body's always making estrogen. There's kind of 3 pipes that your bathtub water, your estrogens can go down as they're getting out of your body. So that's phase 1. So phase 1, there's some pathways are good. Some pathways are bad. So your 2OH pathway, this is your good pathway. This is your anti-cancer pathway. This is the one we want to go down. So your 16A, this pathway is good and bad. It causes things to grow. So it can cause cancer to grow, but it can also cause your bones to get really strong. So we want strong bones, but we don't want our cancers to grow if we have, if we're susceptible to cancer. And then we have our 4 pathway, which is more genotonic. It has a lot to do with our DNA, some heredity in there. But so those are the 3 pathways that we want our estrogen water to go down. So a preferable pathway is pathway, our 2OH. So once we go through those first pathways, our water is getting out of our bathtub. Then we come to the drain. This is our phase 2 pathway, our phase 2 metabolites. So this is where the estrogen is neutralized and filters out through pee or poop, like I said before. So if your drain is clogged, then it can cause your estrogen to recirculate throughout your body. And that's what causes a lot of the symptoms that we see, the boobs, the night sweats, the hot flashes, the inability to lose weight, all of those things. So making sure that drain is open and is able to detox the estrogen is super important. So how do we make sure our drain is open? Are we eating enough fiber? Are we eating multiple different varieties of fiber? Is our gut microbiome balanced and not in dysbiosis? Is our hydration on point and our kidneys working the way that we need? Is our pooping or is our colon working the way that it needs to? So we're pooping regularly. So I always tell people, if you're not pooping at least once a day, multiple times a day is preferable, but at least once a day, then you probably have some estrogen dominance going on and you can't get that estrogen out.
I so remember when I learned that in med school, they called it the oroanal reflex. And I was like, by that point, I was well down the pathway of like heading towards celiac. If I wasn't already, I just wasn't diagnosed. And I remember thinking, who poops? Who eats and poops right away? But really, like babies, we should eat and poop. And then the thing that you didn't mention that I want to put a plug in for is cruciferous vegetables, which you can get in concentrated form and supplement form. But eating cruciferous vegetables will also support the pathway in not in binding that beta glucuronidase and preventing it from recycling your estrogen and pushing all these reactions to pooping it out. So big plug for cruciferous.
I love cruciferous. And one other thing too is eat your broccoli sprouts. Because broccoli sprouts, if you're going down that 4 pathway, will push you on over to that 2 pathway. So definitely eat those broccoli sprouts, eat the crucifix, and then yes, definitely sometimes supplementation is needed, but for sure eating them. Yeah.
And make sure you poop every day. By hook or by crook.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.